Hey, welcome to day 12.
Day 12. We can't believe it. So yesterday we all talked about active listening. And did you listen? What did you hear? It was interesting. Darcy talked to me last night and said, can we not watch the news so much? Or maybe can you watch the news and just give me the highlights? So listen to him. What's underneath that,
Yeah, I think I was just getting tired.
Tired.
Weary of the assault of all the bad news.
Yeah, it never ends. So anyway, we hope you had some great experience with that. Now, our challenge today is, it's called Our Cracks Are Showing, which is kind of fun, but this is all about relational dysfunction, things that show up in times like these. And your challenge today is to not panic.
Yep.
To identify the cracks that you're seeing and then
reach out.
Reach out. Wow, that's really beautiful.
So in July 2005, our family was on our way home from a missions trip in Eastern Europe. And the day before we landed in London on our way home, there was a terror attack, a coordinated terror attack. And so we arrived into a very tense city. Security was up everywhere. And so needless to say, the lineup to get through security at Heathrow was huge. So we were trying to get into the airport, going through security, and the line was one of those snaking lines back and forth with about 8 to 10 corners. And so we got into the line, and just ahead of us, about 15 people ahead of us, at the corner, a man bends down to adjust his luggage. And when he bent down, there was a lot of crack showing. It was, and we smiled. Like, it was like...
But then he went around the next loop and then had to make another adjustment.
He adjusted at every corner. Now, think about it. Every time there's another corner, he has more people behind him. And so facing us are these soldiers with automatic weapons. And the screeners, and they are intense.
I know, they're not understanding why
hundreds of people are starting to smile and laugh in front of them in this tense moment.
Oh.
By the time we got to the front, it was very confused screeners and hundreds of people laughing out loud at this guy who had no clue.
What a great memory. Anyway, so we're talking cracks today. Not those cracks, but... what does this have to do with relationships? Well, this is a destabilizing time. And no relationship is without its problems. We all have we all have dysfunctional patterns in our relationships, even healthy relationships, because you take two people with varying degrees of baggage and brokenness and you put them together and you say, okay, now make it work. One of the beautiful parts about marriage is that when a couple gets married, they start a journey of learning to be married and to be one. And that marriage can serve as a place of accelerated growth, which we're actually going to talk about next week.
So we all have these dysfunctions and we know it. And in normal circumstances, we can get by. And then along comes a pandemic or an international move or something which forces us to be together in our homes 24/7, and it puts pressure on everything. And suddenly the minor cracks that you can usually gloss over are harder to ignore.
Exactly. So first of all, don't panic.
You're normal.
You are absolutely normal. And we can see these cracks as purely negative or like the worst thing ever, or our relationship is falling apart, or we can look at it as an opportunity to understand the guts of our relationship and pinpoint the areas needing some attention. It's actually an opportunity to deepen and strengthen our relationships. I read an article last week where one couple, when asked how they were doing relationally, and they were quoted as saying, well, we broke up 7 times last week. This week it's only been 2.
Only 2.
So, I mean, that's progress.
So what are we to do? Well, don't panic, but then number 2, pay attention. Where are you stuck? What are the issues that keep coming up again and again? We'd been married for, I think, 12 years when our dysfunction finally caught up to us. We were never going to divorce or anything like that, like we were committed, but we were at a crossroads Were we going to push through our issues, or were we going to resign ourselves to this dysfunction?
And I'll never forget one Saturday night, we were having the same conversation. It was that kind of conversation where it would be better just to record it, because we've been having it so often.
And so it's the same thing again.
The same thing
again.
and thing. So next time it would come up, let's just play the recording rather than go through the motions. And I remember sitting on the edge of the bed, and my head was in my hands. And I said to Darcy, "We need help."
And I replied with the ultimate husband wisdom. I said, "Yes, you do."
You can imagine how that went over. So anyway, we did recover from that.
It was the 3 worst words I've said in our
word.
marriage. But I'm glad, in some ways, I'm glad I said them.
Yeah.
Because
Why?
Because of what it led to.
Like it led to, exactly. But we got help. This was not just Leanne getting help. And we've actually been through marriage counseling 3 times in our 30 years of marriage, and attended marriage retreats.
Yeah.
Now, marriage counseling is not a last resort. When your relationship is on life support, sometimes that actually means it's too late, but it's actually something that you do to care for yourself and care for your relationship well.
It's like an oil change for your car. And this doesn't just go for marriage stuff. This goes for family and family systems. This goes for those kind of friends that you want to have for the rest of your life.
Exactly.
But something gets in the way. Well, get help.
Yeah, so reach out if you're struggling. If you need help accessing counseling or coaching or whatever, let us know, and we can direct you to some really great people.
Now, let's talk relational abuse for a moment. One of the concerns that experts and pastors and people like us have right now is the rise of abusive behavior through this pandemic. Abuse can be physical, verbal, emotional, sexual, and it is never okay. So if you're in an abusive situation right now, reach out to a trusted friend. And if you don't have anyone, direct message us. We'll help point you to help. That's a heavier topic today, but it's a really important one.
It's a very important one. So here's your challenge today. First of all, don't panic. When we hit these bumpy times in our relationships, it's normal. And it is actually an opportunity to go deeper. Identify your cracks,
and you may have to ask someone else to do that for you if your crack is at the back. And if you ask somebody and the person receiving that question, speak the truth in love.
Yeah.
So be careful how you walk this out.
Yeah. So, but you know what's coming out in this time? What are the patterns of behavior? It's almost like a dance we sometimes get in with one another that just isn't going anywhere and isn't serving anyone. So, like, really think about what do we keep doing? What is this dance we're in? And then reach out for help.
I remember in that moment of saying, yes, you do, understanding that we could choose to remain in this state of circling around our problems, or we could choose to do the hard work of working through them. I panicked. That's why I answered the way I did. I was afraid. But in the aftermath of that Saturday night, I manned up and said yes to working through it. And it was one of the greatest single decisions of my life. And I'm so glad that we didn't give into fear or pride or the stigma of reaching out.
Yeah.
So
it's so interesting because, one of the things that I don't like when people say to me, oh, you're so lucky. You're so lucky. And I'm like, luck? I mean, yes.
You just want to yell.
I married a good man, and the grace is on us, and we are both willing to work at this, because sometimes one spouse isn't willing to work or whatever, but good relationships aren't luck. They're not luck. They are
hard work and great investment.
This is so much work, you guys. It's so much work. Help me. Anyway, so reach out.
Yeah. So who could you reach out to? Well, reach out to a good friend, reach out to a counselor. Like we have a couple of counselors.
We have lots, actually, we know of in
that
our
we know
network.
of, but there's a couple that we have used multiple times.
Yeah.
A coach. Like maybe if it's a circular thing where you just keep doing it again and again, maybe you just need somebody to coach you out of it.
Exactly.
For pastors, do a post-COVID retreat. Our friends Mary and Marshall Azinga run a ministry called Careth Creek with a K, and it's an amazing marriage retreat, which we've done.
We did in 2016. It was great.
And it was great. So do that, and don't be ashamed to do that. And if you're not a pastor, there are other kind of marriage retreats and conferences that you can go to. Do that work.
Exactly. So
don't
panic. What's the second thing? Identify your cracks and then reach out for help. Okay, so tomorrow is all about gratitude, and we're just going to be talking about, like, again, perception. You know, we're in hard times, but like, what does it mean to cultivate gratitude? So remember, together,
you've got this. Have a great day.